Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay. Happy second Friday of the week. Oh, I need to get up on the, I can't see you on.
I can't see my screen. Give me 1 second. There you go.
No.
Can you see that now? Nope, you can't see it, Coach, because I didn't share it with you. Give me 1 second. Happy Friday. There you
There's
go.
just
Now
too
you
many Fridays lately. Can't. How you doing, Coach?
doing good, doing
Nice,
good.
nice hoodie.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Got this as a little Christmas present to myself. Figured being on Topstep TV, it's good to wear the brand, and it's comfortable too. Nice for the winter time. If you want one of these, we'll do a quick little plug for the Topstep store, shop.topstep.com. I'll put the link for that in the chat. Get all your Topstep gear there. I got a hat somewhere here too. I bought this stuff because I lost my green hat, but I found it. So now I got some extra stuff to wear.
Well, you look good.
Shop.topstep.com. Thank you, Coach. You do as well. And we sound good. Got a confirmation from Andrew and the chat. So thank you. Thank you. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may not talk about markets that you've traded before. We may talk about markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And since we're in 2025, I think I'm going to have to update those numbers. But that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since May of 2023 as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and assist you in becoming a better or a successful trader.
So thank you
So,
for
shall
that.
we begin on this big NFP day?
Big NFP day. The news that the market was waiting for all week. We saw the consolidation on Wednesday. Yesterday, we know we had an abbreviated trading session with the observance of President Jimmy Carter. So for the second Friday of the week, we had a big number come out. We did have the U.S. unemployment rate coming at 4.1%. Forecast was 4.2%. And for non-farm payrolls, actual was 256,000. What was forecast was 165,000. So a big miss on that forecast, 100,000 more jobs in that case. And what else do we get? We also had a Michigan sentiment number come out at 3.7%. Forecast was 3.7. Am I reading the right? Nope, sorry. Michigan sentiment 73.2. Forecast was 74. Anything you got on the news, Coach? How are you interpreting this news, if at all, in your trading?
Well, obviously we've been waiting for this. We've talked for the last week. It's been directionless, choppy, but decision was made. My take on the news is it's inflationary. We had a nice drop in the treasuries. But grains picked up, but straight financially, that unexpected, it calls for higher rates potentially. And boy, did we catch it and catch it on the bid. I don't think there was a bid all day of any substantial size. So very heavy action. Profit taking. I think I would call this profit taking. How about you, Coach?
Yeah, I agree. The markets looked very heavy. To me, on a daily chart, if we're looking at the equities, there looks like there's still potentially some room to the downside. We'll look at the charts when we get into it. But yeah, as far as any bids, I didn't see them either. If there was a bounce, it was pretty short-lived. We could see it almost pretty much into the close with a big sell side MOC as well. Let's get into the charts. Where's my quote board?
Oh, didn't lose it again. I hate when that happens.
I think we lost the quote board.
Oh,
Gonna have to rebuild that. That's not fun. We had some big percentage movers on the day. I'll just go over the big four for now. That's frustrating.
yeah, that is frustrating. That happened many times.
Uh, so let's go over the big four. We had the S&P is down 1.58%, the Nasdaq down 1.63%, gold up 1.04%, crude oil up 3.75%. Crude starting to wake up a little bit here, and had to throw nat gas on there because even though the quote board is no longer here, we know to pretty high certainty that nat gas is going to be that top percentage mover, up 7.5% on the day for what I'm going to call the biggest percentage mover. I'll put the quote board together. I am keeping the stats, so we do need it. But nat gas, big percentage move today, up 7.6%. All right, let's get into
We
the
just
chart. Go ahead, coach.
just just keep it on there. We'll just say it's 1, 2, or 3 every day, and you won't be too far from the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Really nice mover, but really nice moves all over the place today. Yesterday was not a settlement day, although the markets were open for a little bit. So some of the percentage numbers that you see might be a little bit skewed, but we had really nice moves in gold, really nice moves in crude oil across the board. I have an S&P chart up here right now. I'm going to pull up your moving averages, coach. Uh, let's start with the higher time frame. We are at Friday, so let's go to a weekly chart. What are you seeing on a weekly here, coach?
Well, 1, 2 straight weeks lower to start the year. Interesting, but I think we did that last year. But we're under the 20, 50 looks like the next stop. We've talking. Feels heavy.
Give me 1 second.
Um,
I'm gonna send you a request on your audio. It looks like. Hold on. I think I'm getting like a little bit of a clipping sound from your audio. Hold on. Go ahead. Keep going.
all right. Feels heavy, but the weekly uptrend is still very much intact. Longer term, is this a buying opportunity? Well, in stocks, it usually is. But that weekly, definitely in a correction. Let's look at that big up week. The last one, yeah. We're near those lows. Next week, if we close below that lows, this could pick up some downside quickly. And we're spending a decent amount of time since then going sideways. It hasn't happened then.
So it was
What date
election
is
week,
that?
coach. Election week, November, the beginning of
Election
November.
week.
Yep.
Oh, so the new administration takes hold, in less than 2 weeks here? So we'll review there. Let's keep that level up there. I think that's going to be a key level here.
Right around 5,800 at the low of this weekly candle here. Major psych level, whole number level, big fat round number, whatever you want to call it. Looking like a pretty nice target right now.
Yeah. So let's look at the daily. You had that moving average cross. Now, have we broken the range? We settled outside of the range of the FOMC. So pretty bearish action. That's the first time we've settled underneath it. My feeling is we're going to go test that 200 again. And
Same here.
possibly next week. Yeah. What is that level? 5,800?
So the low of the FOMC candle was 59.06. The low of this candle here, which was that election week, is 5,800, and then the 200 moving average on the daily is at 57.40. It looks like a target. It looks like a target.
It really does.
Anything can happen. We can come into next week and we see a rally, but I don't know. I feel like if I had to guess, and again, anything we say here is for educational purposes only, and this here is just my opinion. We probably see very similar price action until we have a change of administration in the U.S., which is on the 20th. So we have another trading week until that. Right, the 20th is on a Monday.
Well, when I talk, it's picking up momentum on the VWAP in the S&P. Today, what was the finish? Excuse me, the average true range on the daily. What is it? Closed at 1. Wow. I have to double check this.
CR on the daily.
92.
Okay.
So it's a 92 because, yesterday we didn't have much of a range, but the actual range was 115. So that average true range keeps going higher and higher until that corrects. That means we're picking up volatility to the downside. You'd want to see that start to come back in, and it's not. So volatility still climbing, ranges are getting bigger. We're settling under FOMC. Next stop, we don't know, but I am playing the downside for the immediate future.
I agree with you, Coach. And talking about playing the downside, let's get into today's price action. We know we had the NFP print. We talk about it all the time here, kind of framing out the news candle, seeing how it presents opportunity. I took a trade short in the S&Ps today at 59.16. We can see where 50% of that news candle was. This is on the 30-minute, but if we go down to a 3-minute, which is where I framed it out, it's the same range. And it's why we say, be careful trading with the news, trading that news candle. You do not need to trade in this candle for opportunity, because it could have gone either way, right? We don't know unless you're someone on the chat that gets the numbers early. We don't know how the market's going to respond, right? But kind of waiting for it uh, to settle, tell us what's going on, present some really good opportunity. And this is a trade setup that we've talked about here a ton. 59.17 was half of that candle. I didn't take any trades pre the New York session open, but then we get the uh, opening range, 3-minute opening range here, which I look at all the time. And I'm framing this out a little bit differently because I want to show something as far as risk to reward goes. I took a short from 59.16. So we can see kind of what the trade was based on. 50% of that candle holding. VWAP was under it. If we have VWAP from the full session, and I'm kind of going to ignore what happened overnight because it was pretty consolidated until we got here. We're under all of this, right? So this is telling me to short the market. And I went with a pretty tight stop. And I'm going to shout out to Coach Vince. I learned this from him, but using the fib tool kind of as a measurement of your risk to reward. I took short at 59.16, risking 8 points. And this was one of the ones where we had that question last week, I believe it was. When do you decide to go with a 2 ATR stop and when do you go with a market structure based stop? In this case, it was a market structure based stop because of the momentum that we saw coming in to the open. And if we broke above this high, then I saw the potential to trade all the way back up to 59.50, where if sellers could not immediately take control, we're going the other way. Now, the reason I put this fib tool up here to kind of show what the potential of some of the trades. There was potential for a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1. I think I took about a 1.5-to-1 on this trade, which I'm not going to complain about. But coach, we called it out pretty early on. If we look at a higher time frame, if we zoom out a little bit, we had some higher time frame levels here. And if I had to review this trade, I think I gave myself probably a C plus, maybe a B minus on the trade because the location was great. I think the management could have been a little bit better. Just looking at higher time frame levels, kind of zooming out once you take that shorter time frame entry, and maybe looking for new lows of the year, which we eventually got, right? If I look at this chart this way before we can see what happens, I don't know that this is necessarily a head and shoulders, but it looks like, and we've been talking about it even on the daily chart. There's room to the downside, right? So giving that trade a little bit more room to work is the only thing I would have changed, but. Uh, as far as entry goes, something that we talk about all the time. We had the VWAP leaving the 3-minute opening range fairly early, and that was that from there. Once this trade happened, the market did present, two-sided trade that we have been seeing. We took a long in the house account in the Nasdaq for a potential, V-shaped recovery. I thought this was a really great price action day, at least for my trading strategy in the equity markets. What about you, Coach?
Well, yeah. One of the things when you take that trade, we were already 50 lower by the time it opened in the
Yep.
S&P.
Yep.
So if you look at it, a range of the day, an expected range on average, you're short when you make 1.5 to 1. I don't think that's too bad. Because it's relative. If it was unchanged, you might have some room to the downside. So I like that trade. And also when we get 100 lower, how many times do we see it bounce back hard?
Right.
And especially day trading. Now we talk a trend, and when we look at the daily or even we're looking at a trend. It's finding a trade inside that trend. That buy off the V-shaped recovery, did we have a volume event ahead of that?
We did. So
No.
couple of
Yeah.
things that happened down there. We had, let me see if I can do this. So we had Hoag's weekly kickoff high. Weekly kickoff low down there at 58.55. Then right around these lows, we saw, don't really see it here on the volume, but in Quantower, I had, some seller absorption right at the low, right at Hoag's level 58.55, which we've seen give us a bounce in the past. I'll see if I can pull up my Quantower chart so we can take a look at that. I'll let that load, but yeah, some sellers got absorbed down there for sure. In the Nasdaq as well, the Nasdaq was making the low at the same time, around 50. Sorry, around 20,875. We had a very, very similar thing, some sellers getting absorbed down there, and then a really nice bounce. So,
That's good.
go ahead, coach.
Yeah, once again, it was a nice bounce. I mean, those are pretty good. And that's the volatility. It's
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
that range there was almost equal to the day's range outside of the opening. It was actually. Where did it go back to? The bottom of the open?
We tested right back to the low of that news candle.
Yeah. So, and then we found what? Selling again. That's why when we speak, it's heavy. What spends, there you go. It just rejects quicker. Classic bear, type of bear market rally where they're vicious. Once the selling stops, It's it's like a balloon let go up underwater.
Got to take profits at some point. And again, we talked about that kind of being what these moves to the upside felt like. Shorting this market felt a lot more comfortable today for me. Got a couple of anchored VWAPs that I put on here. The purple one is anchored to the news, which on news days I'm usually going to do. We can see where that bounce kind of rejected as well. We can trade it the same way. I would look at it the same way as I trade the opening range from the 3-minute New York session open, right? VWAP started to leave the range. It was a pretty big range hanging out near these lows. Price rejects at it. Can't accept back in it. This is a beautiful short, and it gave us a couple of times to do it, right? Some of the bounces are going to be bigger than others. This bounce here got back to that 3-minute opening range. But again, volume is below it. Really nice opportunities to take shorts in this area. And going into next week, unless something changes, I'm going to be looking for opportunities to sell as well. I'm going to pull up a NASDAQ chart, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at
Well,
go ahead.
it looks a little different, really. But let's go through it.
Here's a 30-minute.
Yeah.
Under that 200 moving average. Coach, I know you're coming in under the 200 moving average is opportunity to sell. And that's, again, exactly what we got today. Let's look at, we didn't look at it in the S&Ps. Let's look at last night's open because I'm kind of seeing it already here. Let's see, last night's open here. Look at where the wick on the high of that news candle is.
Wow. So let's go through that. Obviously everything was waiting for the number, right? Overnight, we had some selling, but VWAP never left the upside of the opening, ever. And then when the news came out, it was over. And actually, when we take that out, I mean, the rest of the range was half of what we saw. Also, for going forward, we didn't take into. Are we taking into account what happened yesterday?
Didn't really. So yesterday.
Let's start from yesterday's action. It was overnight.
I have this all wrong. This is yesterday's open.
Yesterday's night open?
Yes, this is yesterday's night open.
I'll keep that. Good. That's even more. Yeah.
Where we went.
That's important.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Last night, it's like one long night waiting for the news.
Exactly.
Right there, to me, that just shows how heavy this is. There was no bargain hunting. But usually, we should see some buying early in the year. Where are we from the first trading day of the year? I think
we're technically negative on the year right now. Here's the first trading day of the year. And on this close, we are, we're negative on the year from where we opened. But we did close inside that candle, right? We pushed below the low and closed inside of it. Yeah, it looks heavy.
Yeah. Then we get a sale to buy stocks cheap. So that's why we've gone nowhere for the year, basically. And we come into the first full week on Monday. I just foresee more volatility. Remember, with volatility comes opportunity. But position sizing becomes critical. If you're too big, I like on a micro today, it was possible to make $500-600 on one micro in the NASDAQ. It was very possible. If you did a mini, today's range was almost just shy of $10,000. If you're in a $50,000 combo, that's 500% of your capital in one day. Let's look at it that way. Trade the micros.
I think we had a trader get moved to a live account trading micros with the 50K balance in that account. It might take longer than you expect it to, but you'll get to your destination a little safer trading micros.
Oh, might be quicker. I say it might be quicker because your position sized and you won't blow up.
True.
So
True.
if you
have to
have
restart.
let's say you have, a solid process. And if you're over leveraged, and over leveraged doesn't just mean the size, it also means you have to measure the volatility. It's extremely important. We're from the beginning of the year to now, we're double the volatility. I mean, the ATR is going to be back at 100 on the S&P, almost 500 in the NASDAQ. That volatility, it's like, think of an insurance company. Insurance rates are going up throughout the country right now after what happened in LA. And they're already high, right? But why are they going to go up? Volatility is going up in the insurance industry. So understand that. You stay in line with the volatility, or even if you have a very good process, a little hiccup in the market can blow you out. And that is very frustrating. If it's ever happened to you, I know it's happened to me a couple times when I didn't position size right. So understand that lesson. You can make darn good money in micros right now. It's almost a gift.
Yes, it is. Just a question from Dan Emmons: Are we 7% down in the S&Ps? Looking at the futures chart, we're about 5.25% down in the S&Ps, and in the Nasdaq 6.5%. And a question from Kaiser K: Why do you all talk about the 3-minute opening range so much? What can you tell from the first 3 minutes of volatility? For me, the 3-minute opening range, I like trading on 3-minute charts, and it's a short enough time frame where it's close to a 1-minute opening range, which some people use. Some people use 15. The reason I personally like a 3-minute is because I can tell fairly early on what the market is trying to do. Sometimes we have a 3-minute opening range and we're going to sit in that range for an hour. Other times we have a 3-minute opening range. I'm going to go back to Tuesday. Got to change my fib tool back to where it was. But here's a 3-minute opening range on Tuesday. This is telling me, pretty quick opportunity based on the angle of VWAP and that small range. So it's a preference thing. I would say whatever you use it consistently. You'll hear some people talk about a 30-second opening range. Some people use a 1-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute, first half an hour. Whatever you do, do it consistently.
Coach, let's just show a 1-minute opening range.
Here's a 1-minute chart and a 1-minute. Hold on. I'm just gonna change. I'm just gonna change this here.
You can keep that, yeah.
Second here, please. There we go.
All right.
The
You can use
3-minute.
the idea is use whatever, like Coach said, be consistent. You could use 1, you could use a 5, 15, whatever, 10. The idea is the opening sets the tone. A vast majority of the volume is done on the opening range. It's going to set the tone for the day. So the old school from the trading on the floor days is the first minute was the opening range. All the trades that were declared to be in the opening had to be within the opening range prices. All right, so that was easy. It was much easier because that was much more consistent. With electronic trading, while we have an open, there's no official opening range, but volume can come in at any time. The most consistent volume is in the first half an hour. So whatever you're trading, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, it's a great place to measure what the imbalance is from the beginning of the trading day. That's the bottom line, what this is. So choose your weapon, 1, 3, 5. It's a great place to measure. If price is leaving the opening range is giving you information, there's most likely an imbalance. And if that imbalance matches a VWAP that's going down, that's even better information. So like there's an imbalance from the opening and it's reflected in VWAP against a measurement of time. I hope that's so whatever your time frame is, use it.
We got a question here, one from AEFX. Is the 3-minute opening range, is that the first 3 minutes of the initial balance? Yes. Remember, the initial balance is the first hour of trade in any market that you trade. The 3-minute opening range is the first 3-minute candle when a market opens, right? If you're using the 5-minute, then it's going to be the first 5-minute candle when a market opens. And then we got another question from Dave Stowe. Do you look at anything else besides the 3-minute? Feel like I'm confused switching around between the 5 and 15. I use a 3-minute chart and a 30-minute chart when I'm actively trading, right? Levels are going to come off of dailies, and I don't usually go higher than a daily when I'm looking at levels for day trading. But I go from a daily, and then when I'm actively trading, I have my main screen set to a 3-minute chart, and then on the sides, if I'm looking at other levels, I have 30-minute charts. So if I'm looking, like if I'm scanning for a market to trade, I'm not scanning on a 3-minute chart for that market. I'm looking at a 30-minute. The 5 and the 15 can be kind of similar depending, on what you use. So maybe either push one of those out, maybe you go to a 5 and a 30 and see if that causes, gives you some more clarity on where the market is going. But I use a 3 and a 30.
And I strongly recommend don't switch. Pick one, whatever you were at, whatever you want to decide, whatever you're comfortable. And if you're just starting with it, do it in your practice account. Set it up. No matter what it is, whatever your trading process is, it has to be repeatable. And it has to be something you can execute. What do I mean by execute? You have to be able to take the heat or let it ride. You have to be comfortable in executing it. So don't just, one of these, Coach Jay uses 3-minute, you might be more comfortable with a 5-minute. But once you decide, stay there. Don't veer back and forth.
Such a great point, Coach. Because what's going to happen when we change around like that, right? We're looking for the answer. So I guess to answer that question, why do you talk about the 3-minute opening range so much? Because I've been using it for years, and I'm not going to change, no matter what anybody says. Even when I'm on Topstep TV with Hoag, right? Hoag looks at a 1-minute, and he's just like, "Oh wait, the 1-minute, opening range set the high for the day." I hear that, and I take that as information because I know Hoag looks at the trade very similar. but I can't take a trade based on his 1 minute. I'm still going to have to wait for the 3 minute because that's what my strategy is built around, right? So just like Coach Paul's saying, decide and keep it the same. Uh, Anything else on the equities, Coach?
Nothing here.
All right, let's go over to gold. Gold had a pretty nice move today after that news as well.
Let's see.
Here's gold on the 30-minute chart. We've been above the 200 moving average on the 30-minute for pretty much the week. Really nice trend starting here in gold.
And look at that. We talked earlier about the 20 and the 50. It's holding the 50. It's hovering. VWAP is hovering around the 20. Let's look at the daily. Did we get over the 20 moving average and the 50? Yep. Did we get over that trend line, downtrend line? Yes. There you go. And we closed above it, I think. We're right at it. So tomorrow, we've cleared all the short-term moving averages, the long-term. We've had this correction. We're above the 200 on the half hour. Boy, it looks like, to me, that looks like the correction's over. I'm willing to dip my toe on the long side, look for some kind of structure of a volume imbalance to the buy side and take some risk. How about you, Coach?
Yeah, looks favorable to the long side. That volume event could have been NFP today, right? Where we kind of got uh, that reaction here. We held the high of that 30-minute candle for the rest of the day. Came back and checked it a couple of times. The high of that candle is 27.14 if we're looking at a 30-minute chart. But the rally in gold really today started in the overnight session. Um, Let me make sure I got that right. That was last night. Yes, it was. Uh,
Wow.
this is really, yeah. You could have had a trade in gold before NFP and be done
Golden
for the day.
trade.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Um, what I want to look at here is, we talk about that 2 ATR stop. Um, if you were to take this long, go 2 ATRs, would it have survived this move here? And it would not have. It would have got stopped out, but pretty close. Pretty close. We came back, checked yesterday's price action on that abbreviated day, on that newsprint, and bounced right back up. Pretty quick move. Um,
Well, also day trading.
yep.
You can't hold gold through a big move, a big news event like this.
Oh
If you
yeah.
had that kind of money, then and you get stopped out with a loss, you better review what you're doing. Does that give you another opportunity after? And we talk about the news candle event, framing that out.
So we have that here. VWAP from that news event never left the range. Price did to the low. Uh, you know, can you buy this? I've taken this trade a couple of times. It's risky, but Coach, we talked about the market closing above a volume event where we get this close here. This could be
Yes.
your buy, and you get the confirmation that the market is done trading these prices. Remember, we didn't have this in the equities. The equities traded to 50% and held. In this case, that VWAP started to tick upwards for a pretty nice
Also,
buying up. Go ahead.
if we took a sell there on because it broke that volume, let's just say we talk about cutting losses. I want to just let's say, oh wow, let's move that all the way back to the right till just all we see is that. Now we got a different perspective. You could be looking at this going, look at this. This is breaking. This is going. Okay, I sell that when it breaks the low of the volume candle. What's my risk? Either the high of that volume candle, am I willing to risk that? Or a close above VWAP? There, I just limited. If I don't cover that, and that's a volume event. So we have that big selling and we have buying, it's taking out VWAP. And let's think about that for a minute. What does that mean?
Sellers stopped selling, buyers started buying.
Yeah. And another thing could be is that selling got absorbed by resting orders.
Yep.
We don't know, but we do get information. Once it closes above VWAP, I'm telling you, I'm out. I feel, I don't want to get caught in a trap. I'd rather lose my toe than lose my life. Like here.
True. If you had to pick one,
take
yeah,
it.
I agree.
And we've seen that pattern come out a lot, not just in gold, but reading the flow. I call it you're reading the flow. So I don't want us to look at, think we're reviewing. I don't want it to look like cherry picking.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
there is that looked like it was going to go to the downside. I wouldn't blame. I might even have sold that. Now, I personally wouldn't because it's above the 200 in the 30. I'm looking to buy it. But if I'm sold it, okay, I'm wrong. Why?
Right. And it's important. How do you take that loss here, right? Where you're not always going to be right? Now, I see a couple of traders in the chat saying, you could close it above 50% of the candle. You could close it above VWAP. You could close it at the high of the candle. All solid ideas because look where the market eventually went, right? We went up another 30 points. So if this turned into an ego trade where no, the market has to go down and I'm right, that's when you blow your account. So knowing where you're wrong, uh, and just accepting it, maybe you flip and go the other way because you get a pretty decent buy signal here, right? And then you realize the flow of the market, but you can't do that if you hold on to the need to be right for this trade.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. Hey, let's take a quick look at the weekly in gold.
Okay. Right here oh yeah, that looks pretty bullish.
Yeah.
Pretty bullish.
And that's even a bigger trend line. That's the weekly trend line broke. We're back above the 20. There's nothing bearish in that to me,
No.
from
Oh
my
yeah.
perspective.
Same here. Same here.
Um,
We are a little less than 4% off the high, off the all-time high, and I think that we could see that pretty soon here. Pretty soon here. We got some questions here. Which anchored VWAP is more powerful, the 30-minute or the 3-minute? Sometimes smaller time frames break it all. Uh, More powerful. I think we might be almost kind of splitting hairs there, where look at the. It's almost two different trades if you're looking at a 3-minute and a 30-minute. I don't know how to answer that question, Coach. You know how to answer that one?
Yeah, if you're day trading, use a shorter one. At night, use the 30-minute day frame and use it consistently. Remember, they're going to be a little different. What the key to this is reading the flow of volume against price. Is volume going against price like in gold here? What is it going with? Is it in harmony or is it in turbulence? Now that I look at that kind of trade, that's failed selling in a longer term trend. They could be an early in. I don't know. Looking at that for a day trade, it's probably a better trade. The idea, though, of reading VWAP is two things. No, you could actually study it from different time frames to see what works best for you. The key is to read the structure of the volume against the price to see where the larger term flow is, because it's not in the retail environment. Retail does not lead any movement. I'm going to say that it doesn't happen. The institutions move the market. The shark moves the market. But the key is learn how to read the volume. I'm finding a best way for me to read it is the VWAP, because it's organic information. Pick and then you could study and observe different time frames and see how it works. And then you can choose one that you're most comfortable in executing, and then execute it. I hope that helps.
Whoops, a ton, Coach. Thank you. You said it there. I don't need to repeat it. Do you ever use a break and retest of anchored VWAP? I do. Let's go back to the S&Ps, for example. Right here, where we broke above it. This is anchored VWAP from the New York session open. Here's the news candle. We broke above it. This is telling me, actually, I look for this trade often, right? Because the way I'm reading this is, if I still think there's more room to the downside and I can get a sell above this anchored VWAP, then I'm in a better price than whoever is still short here. So I will use it. It's all context. You know, this started to flatten out a little bit. So we've seen flat VWAP start to turn into a range bound market. And again, context, we have the news candle high here. This could potentially be highs of that range, and then coming back down. So I will definitely use it. And then before we switch over to crude oil, we got another question here in the Coach J chat. Many times during the session, you'll say, I spotted 100 lots on the bid or 50 lots on the ask. How do you interpret this information in the case of these massive orders are near the last traded price? Okay, so you're basically asking, how do you read the DOM? How am I reading the DOM? I'm looking at any bigger orders on the DOM in the overall context of the market. If I'm seeing a 1,000 lot in the S&Ps above where the market is currently trading and we're trending up, I'm looking for the potential of the market for the potential of the market to trade to that order, and then I want to see how the market responds to that order. If it's 1,000 lot on the offer, which is on the ask, that's a passive seller there. Now, if I'm long, we need aggressive buyers to come in and take out that order. If they don't, we watch the reaction to it. If aggressive buyers don't step in and take out an order, that might mean that there isn't really interest from buyers from bigger pockets buyers in this market, and we'll see a rejection. So I'm looking at the orders and just reading the market's reaction to them. If you're interested in doing it, I would say, pull up a DOM, see how those orders populate on the market, and then just watch the response. Sometimes you're going to see them get filled, sometimes you're not. I think the one thing you'll recognize patterns in it, but sometimes we will get to a day. I think this was sometime last week, but we had a couple of 100 lots on the Nasdaq and a couple of 500 lots in the S&P, and every time we had one, it got filled. Right? They showed up on the bid. Every time we had one, it got filled. What that tells me is whoever's in the markets for the day don't mind selling to bigger orders. And actually, that was Tuesday. And we saw that sell-off that we had on Tuesday. So anytime you see big orders and the market doesn't have an issue with filling them, then to me that means fluid price action will probably get a trend. Getting some audio in the background. I think we're okay. Coach, I don't know if that's your mouse.
Hello? Check.
Yep,
Is that my mouse? Can you hear this?
Yeah. Yep.
That's my mouse. I'm sorry.
Okay. All good. Someone said, "Is someone digging a hole?" Uh, burying all your
Yeah, I
Topstep
was
winners today.
earlier today trying to buy S&Ps.
Right. Um, you do need to pay for level 2 data in that case. Uh, that's an eye opener on how to trade with the Dom. Yeah, it's I think spend some time with it. I can give it's its own class, and we've actually done a class on kind of reading the tape. It's in the Discord, and there's some trade examples in that coach's library in Discord as well if you want to check those out. But it could literally be its own subject. I mean, we have traders, maybe not in the equity markets, but we have there's some traders that trade some of the treasury products, coach, and they don't look at a chart at all. Um, and they're just looking at what's on the order book and how it gets filled. Uh,
And by the way, it's much easier to do that there
oh yeah, yes it
because
is
we'll go into that another time. Yeah.
much easier. Here's a crude oil, coach. Let's look at a higher time frame. Let's go out to a daily on crude. Got that trend line that
Yep.
we talked about.
There's a trend line, a moving average. We're staying above it. It's interesting. The breaks are being bought and held. So let's go to the half an hour, and we'll see what I mean by that. There's the break, bought and held. We've been above 200 moving average since Wednesday night, the first Friday of the week. Where is Wednesday's opening?
Wednesday's opening. Wednesday was the 8th. Wednesday's
Okay.
open.
Or then Thursday's opening on Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, right here.
All right. So we broke before the holiday. And let's just think about it. It got bought. We got above the 200, I think, Thursday morning. And there we go. It held
Great
that
trend from
almost to
there.
the tick, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah, it broke, came back, tested it on the close for oil on Thursday, and we've been rallying since then. In a really nice trade. One of the markets that I've seen present some urgency last night. Uh, and our friends in London having all the fun, starting the rally.
They control the oil.
Did it
We
again.
just live in their world.
We had almost a 5% move from the London Open to the New York Open, which is really nice. So if you're, either awake and you're in the U.S. during this time, or you're in a different part of the world, London is a nice time for, London Session Open is a nice time for some of these trades. We've seen it in oil, we've seen it in the metals. Um, and you could have this trade on and be done for the day. I think copper was another. Was it copper? No, it was something else. If I had my quote board, I would tell you exactly what it was. But we had some really nice movement last night in a couple of different markets. But we got about 5 minutes left. Let me see if we got any other questions. Any other
Corn,
markets you want to take a look, Coach? Oh, corn.
corn, soybeans, but especially corn.
What the hell happened
Look at
there?
that daily. The report came out, the
Okay.
WASD, World Agriculture, which affects crops throughout the world. We called this out last Friday. It was on the trend is changing. It was on the watch. We closed above the 200-day moving average. The trend is set.
Interesting chart.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, I say I'm
We called this out. So
very friendly.
the last I remember this now. The last at the buzzer we did for 2024. Um,
Oh, that
you
was
said
it for the
you
year.
said
Yeah.
yeah, you said going into 2025, I am bullish corn. Uh, Shout out to that scouting report, coach, because this looks like a very bullish chart, and like there's a ton of room potentially to the upside if this continues. Very interesting.
Yeah. And that exploded off that. What I don't know. Yeah, I'm surprised corn wasn't on the lead. Well, we don't have the leader, but corn was up. Let's settle 17 higher. So that's a massive move for corn. And
3%.
this is, I mean, the old crop is done. This is a new season. It's called new crop. Harvest lows usually come in November, December. We've have all those things in action. A longer term downtrend line has been broken. So
Interesting. So I guess, with the WASD report that came out, this is NFP for grains. Uh,
yeah,
right, FOMC for grains. If we look at it even here, right? Frame out that candle, 30% of it kind of held. Don't Definitely do not want to trade during this WASD report because your account will go bye-bye. But unless you're on the right side of the markets, even in corn, this is a pretty big move here. But if
well,
I'm going to be trading, go ahead.
look at how much that move off that number. That probably happened in less than a minute.
Yeah.
Look at how much action it took out. I think instantly.
I would be looking at this candle now as, the information going forward, right? How does the market, I'd probably anchor a VWAP there. How does the market now respond after this report, right? You could go on a 30-minute chart if you're looking higher time frame. But how does it respond to this price and trade from there? But this looks very bullish.
Yeah, that was a welcome event.
Couple more questions here. Oscar does it. Is it better to change the minimum lot amount that displays on the DOM? For me, I keep my DOM set to, default, just no filter. I filter out time and sales. Where if I'm looking for filled orders, I'm gonna filter out time and sales there. And Nelson, I did not see your question, so if you can repost it, we will take a look. But any other markets that you want to talk about, Coach? I know Coach Vince just said he was looking at wheat. Uh, are we going to be talking about the ag soon? A couple of coaches now talking about a couple of farm products here: corn, wheat, soybeans. They're great markets to trade. I remember there was like a 2 or 3 month period last year where I placed a decent amount of trades in the ag products just because they were presenting pretty good opportunities. So uh, I will trade anything if it presents one.
And like it.
And Zoe, the report is the WASD report, World Agriculture Supply and Demand. I don't know what the E stands for, uh, but it's a report that comes out. When does WASD come out? Once a month, Coach?
Once a month. Yeah.
Once a month.
It
Okay,
stands
always on a
for
Friday.
World Agricultural Supply and Demand. I forget the E.
Yeah, I don't remember what the E is. It's
Excitement.
WASDE. Excitement. There you go. Estimates. There we go. World
Estimates.
Agriculture
Yeah.
Supply and Demand estimates. Right.
It is the FOMC or unemployment Friday number for grains, as Coach said. It's really important. By the way, cotton comes out. We're not going to go through that now, but wheat. What are we seeing in wheat, Coach?
looks like it's in a downtrend, and I don't know if if there's a correlation there or anything like that. But on a daily, does not look bullish at all. It looks pretty heavy. If I zoom out, we got data back to 2020, but we're at these lows. Uh, looks heavy. It looks heavy. But if the ags start to turn, wheat has been in a downtrend pretty much since May, the beginning of May. We're in this downtrend here from this high. Maybe we're above it. We'll see. This looks very bullish, bearish to me though. Coach
All
says, "Do
right.
you see that head and shoulders from previously? What time frame?" And
Oh yeah,
okay,
there it is.
one last question from
Right
Nelson before we
shoulders.
get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach. What are your personal goals for Q1? Also, how do you think a trader should gauge their goals based on a 2 to 4K account balance? Thanks. My personal goals for Q1 do not set a I personally don't set a monetary goal. My personal goals are to continue to trade the S&Ps and look at the stats after uh, I've decided. I said it was going to be a month that I wasn't trading the Nasdaq, but look at the numbers after 3 months. Um, I'm trade my personal account. I trade accounts here at Topstep. The goal is to execute well on day trades and look at the numbers at the end of 3 months. Um, that's really it. I know what the long term goal is, but I say it all the time to my VIPs. If at the beginning, let's say we're playing a sport at the beginning of the NBA season, teams want to win a championship. If every time I shoot the ball, I think, hey, this shot has to go in because I want to win a championship, then I'm never going to win one. So I know what my goal is. My goal is to get into a live account with TopStep this year, um, to build the balance in this account. But on a dollar wise perspective, I really don't want to know where the account is. I just want to take good trades. What about you, Coach?
My whole focus is to execute my trading plan, um, and accept losses and wins with the same mindset. Um, so on a day trade, I'm having trouble with it's affecting my swing trades. So my whole goal is to get in the mindset of where day trade's a day trade and a swing trade is not in relation. It's helping me out in this first couple weeks of January. That's my focus going forward. I find it harder to day trade than swing trade, because on swing trades you can eat, you can make big money, and I have to get my mindset right for day trades taking money quicker. So that's my focus on keeping those two mindsets in relation to what the objective is. Well, Coach, we've been talking about it. 2-to-1s in a day trade is a darn good trade. And I have to focus on that. So that's where I'm at.
2 to 1 is a great trade. You could do really well getting 2 to 1s and limiting that risk. We are at time, little 5 minutes over, but that's okay. Great conversation here, and we want to thank you all for joining. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that like button for us. That's only if you like what we're doing here. But even if you hate it, hit that like button as well. But if you're here on a Friday afternoon, night, wherever it is where you are in the world, um, we appreciate you. So thank you for being here, Coach. Anything before we go into the weekend?
No, enjoy yourself, rest up, and spend a little time reviewing what you're doing and what your trades were. Don't spend too much. Don't because you have to refresh. But give yourself an hour and go. Are these the trades I plan to take? And you get much more out of that than trying to than trying to do everything in one day. Good hour. Go back, review, and I'm telling you, that's really going to help. So have a good weekend.
Thank you all for joining. Andrew, thank you as always for sending questions over to us. We will talk to you all next week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.